This is a story about a woman who refused to babysit her sister's kids on Christmas, and now her whole family is mad at her. Now, she's wondering, was she in the wrong? Listen through and let me know what you think.
I've always been the type of person who keeps the peace, especially with family. I'm the one who steps up when things get tough, always putting others' needs first. But this Christmas, I hit my breaking point. For context, my sister has 3 kids, 2 under the age of 6, and I'm their go-to babysitter. I've watched them countless times over the years, and I'm always the one who steps in when she needs a break. Don't get me wrong, I love my niece and nephews, but after years of being the default babysitter, I realized I was completely drained. I work a full-time job, and Christmas this year was supposed to be about me. I had plans to relax, catch up with some friends, and just take a break. But of course, my sister had other plans. She called me a week before Christmas and asked if I could watch the kids for her while she did all the holiday prep. At first, I hesitated. I knew I couldn't do it this year. So I said, "I'm sorry, but I can't babysit this Christmas. I need some time for myself." I thought she'd understand. She didn't. The next day, she called me again. "Please, I really need your help this year. I'm overwhelmed with everything, and I can't do it alone." I repeated myself, "I'm sorry, I really can't this time. I have plans and I need a break." She didn't take that well. She tried to guilt trip me, saying things like, "I'm your sister. I've always been there for you. And it's Christmas. Can't you just help me out for a few hours?" But this time, I wasn't backing down. I had said no, and I wasn't going to let anyone make me feel bad for it. This wasn't about me being selfish. It was about me finally putting my own needs first. And that's when the fallout started. Christmas Eve came, and I was fully prepared to enjoy a quiet night. My living room was set up with snacks, and I was planning on binge watching some shows and maybe even having a glass of wine or two. I was looking forward to it, honestly. But then, at around 7 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "Can you come over? Your sister really needs help, and you're her only option." I stared at the message for a moment, trying to decide if I should respond. I didn't want to deal with this anymore. I had made my boundaries clear. I was firm about not babysitting this year. But there it was, the guilt again. My mom wasn't one to play the guilt card often, but when she did, it hit different. Still, I knew I couldn't go back on my word. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. I typed back, "I already told her I can't. I need this time for myself." Mom replied quickly, she's at her wit's end. "It's just for a couple of hours. Please, just help her out." At this point, I was starting to feel frustrated. The same line was being repeated, just a couple of hours. But I knew what that meant. Once I agreed, they'd expect me to keep doing it, and I'd never get a break. I wasn't going to let that happen. I decided to call my mom instead of texting. I wasn't going to leave this open for interpretation. "Hey, Mom," I said when she picked up, trying to keep my tone even. "I've already said no, and I'm not changing my mind. I need this time. If I keep giving in, I'll never get any space for myself." There was a long pause before she responded. "I get that. I do. But you have to understand, your sister is exhausted. She's trying to make everything perfect, and she just needs some help. You're the only one she can rely on right now." I sighed, trying to stay calm. "I'm sorry she's stressed, but I'm not the solution this time. I can't keep putting my needs aside for her, especially if she won't respect my boundaries." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. "So, you're just going to leave her hanging? She's going to be all alone on Christmas Eve with the kids, and you're choosing not to help?" I could hear the disappointment in her voice, but I wasn't backing down. "Yes, I'm choosing not to help. I'm not abandoning her. I'm just not going to sacrifice my plans for her anymore." There was a long silence, and then my mom's voice softened. "I don't want to make you feel bad, but I wish you'd reconsider." I paused before answering, my voice firmer than before. "I've already made up my mind. I need a break. I'm not going to feel guilty for taking care of myself." We hung up shortly after that, and I felt a strange mix of relief and guilt. I wasn't going to let anyone walk all over me this time, but I knew that my decision was going to have consequences, and sure enough, the next morning, I found out just how much. I had a slow start, sipping coffee and watching the snow fall outside. I wasn't happy about the conflict with my sister, but I felt at peace. For once, I wasn't bending over backwards for everyone else. That peace was short-lived. Around 10 a.m., my phone rang. It was my sister. I hesitated before answering, bracing myself for what I knew was coming. "Hey," she said, her voice tight with frustration. "I need you to come over. Now." I frowned. What happened? She sounded close to tears. "The kids are driving me crazy, and I can't do this anymore. I've been up since 5 a.m. getting everything ready, and now I'm stuck trying to entertain them by myself. I asked you to help, and you just left me hanging." I could feel the anger rising in me, but I stayed calm. "I told you I couldn't help. I'm not going to change my mind just because it's Christmas. I have plans today." "Plans?" She scoffed. "You're going to just sit around and do nothing while I'm here drowning in all of this? That's really what you're going to do?" Her words hit harder than I expected, but I refused to let them get to me. "I'm not doing nothing. I'm taking care of myself for once. And if you can't respect that, then maybe that's something you need to think about." There was a long pause on the other end. It felt like a punch in the gut, but I stood my ground. Finally, she spoke again, her voice trembling. "You're just selfish, you know that? I've always been there for you. Always. And now, when I need you, you can't even do this one thing for me?" The guilt hit hard. It wasn't that I didn't care about her, or that I didn't want to help. I just couldn't keep sacrificing my own well-being for her every time things got tough. And I knew that if I gave in now, it would be the same thing over and over again. "I'm sorry you're feeling like this," I said, keeping my voice as steady as possible. "But I'm not going to let you guilt-trip me into something I don't want to do. I've already explained why I can't help." She was silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her words were cold. "Fine. If that's how you feel, I won't ask you again." Before I could say anything else, she hung up. That I sat there, stunned, staring at the phone. Part of me was relieved. It was over, at least for now. But another part of me felt a wave of guilt wash over me. Did I make the right decision? Was I really being selfish? I barely had time to process what had just happened before my phone buzzed again. This time, it was my mom. I groaned inwardly, knowing I was about to relive the entire conversation from a different angle. I answered, trying to sound as casual as possible, but I'm sure the tension was still thick in my voice. "Hey, Mom. You've talked to your sister, right?" she asked, getting straight to the point. I rubbed my forehead, feeling the weight of the situation. "Yeah, I just got off the phone with her." "Anne?" she prompted, her voice anxious. "I told her I couldn't help," I said, exhaling. "I already made it clear that I'm not babysitting this Christmas. I need my time too." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. "You really aren't going to help her? It's Christmas, for God's sake." I felt a surge of frustration. "Yes, Mom, I'm not helping. She has 3 kids, and I'm not going to drop everything just because she's overwhelmed. I've helped her out so many times before, but this time I need to be firm. I can't just keep putting myself last every holiday." There was a long silence. And then, in a defensive tone, my mom replied, "Well, I'm too old to be running around taking care of little ones all the time. I can't just drop everything and babysit like I used to." I was taken aback by her response. "Wait, are you seriously saying you can't help because you're too old? I thought you wanted me to be the one to help her out. Why don't you help if you think she needs it so badly?" I could almost hear her stiffen on the other end of the line. "Well, I've already done my part. I'm not in the same shape I was when I was your age. I've raised my kids, and now I'm letting you step up. I can't keep running after toddlers all day. I'm old, for heaven's sake." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So, it's fine for me to sacrifice my time, but you get a pass because you're old? That doesn't seem fair, Mom." She didn't respond right away, and for a moment, I wondered if she was actually going to process what I said. But then she spoke again, her voice rising. "It's not about being fair, it's about family. She needs help, and you're supposed to be there for her. You can't just say no and leave her hanging like this. This is a family crisis, and you're being selfish." I held my ground. "I'm not being selfish. I'm being realistic. I've done enough for her, and I'm not going to burn myself out again. I've set my boundary, and I expect you to respect that. I've given enough, Mom. Maybe it's time for someone else to step in. And maybe you can start by helping, if you really think she's struggling so much." Mom let out a sigh, clearly frustrated. You don't get it. It's not that simple. I braced myself, knowing Mom was about to hit me with something big. I could hear the tension in her breathing before she finally spoke. She's been having a really hard time lately, Mom said, her voice suddenly lower, more serious. She and Mark have been fighting. He might be leaving her. I blinked. Wait, what? Since when? Mom sighed. She hasn't told you because she doesn't want people to know. But it's been going on for months. And now, with Christmas and the kids, it's all piling up. She's exhausted, scared, and she's trying to keep everything together. And here you are, refusing to help. A wave of guilt tried to creep in, but I pushed it back. I had to stay logical. Mom, I'm sorry she's going through that, but that doesn't mean I have to step in as a second parent. That's his responsibility, not mine. And honestly, if things are that bad, maybe she should have told me instead of just demanding help. Mom exhaled sharply. You don't understand. You don't have kids. You don't have a family like she does. You have time, but you don't want to give it. That hit a nerve. I clenched my jaw. Mom, just because I don't have kids doesn't mean my time is less valuable. And it doesn't mean I have to be a backup parent whenever my sister needs a break. She scoffed. So that's it? You're just going to sit alone on Christmas while your sister is drowning? I sighed. I'm going to enjoy my Christmas the way I planned. I'm not responsible for fixing everyone else's problems. There was silence on the other end. I knew she was fuming, trying to find another way to make me feel guilty. And then, finally, she delivered her final blow. Well, she said coldly, I hope you're happy with yourself. Because when you need family one day, don't be surprised if no one picks up the phone. That one stung, but I swallowed the hurt. That's a real nice thing to say, Mom. Merry Christmas. And with that, I ended the call. My phone buzzed. I already knew who it was before I even looked. Sister texted, Wow, Mom just told me what you said. I can't believe how selfish you're being. It's Christmas, and you'd rather sit alone than help your own family? I exhaled through my nose, my grip tightening on the phone. I wasn't even surprised. Mom had clearly wasted no time running to my sister, twisting things just enough to make me look like the villain. Another text came through. I hope you know you're ruining Christmas for everyone. The kids were so excited to see you. But I guess your alone time is more important. That one hit a nerve. She was using the kids now? Classic move. I took a deep breath and started typing. Don't do that. You never even asked me nicely. You just assumed I'd drop everything, and when I said no, you threw a fit. That's not fair. I'm not responsible for your kids just because I don't have my own. A few seconds later, the typing bubbles popped up. She replied, I assumed you'd help because that's what family does. But I guess you don't care about family. That was it. I was done and I texted her. I do care. That's why I'm setting boundaries. You don't get to guilt trip me every time you don't want to parent your own kids. If you need help, ask nicely. If someone says no, respect it. Merry Christmas. I hit send, put my phone on silent, and tossed it onto the couch. I sat there, waiting. Would she keep arguing? Would she finally drop it? I didn't know. But what I did know was that, for the first time in a long time, I wasn't letting myself be walked all over. After putting my phone on silent, I flopped onto my bed, exhausted from the pointless back and forth. I wasn't even mad anymore, just tired. Tired of always being expected to drop everything. Tired of feeling like the bad guy just because I had boundaries. I closed my eyes, telling myself I'd take a short nap just to clear my head. And then, bang, 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 that I jolted awake, my heart pounding. For a second, I was disoriented. How long had I been asleep? Was I imagining things? Bang, bang, bang. Nope, that was real. I groggily got up and stumbled toward the door, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. As soon as I opened it, my stomach sank. There she was. My sister. She was standing on my doorstep, arms crossed, her car idling behind her with her kids in the back seat. What the hell? I muttered, still half asleep. What are you doing here? She scoffed. What do you think? Get in the car. I blinked. Excuse me? She rolled her eyes. You made your point, okay? But I need you to come with me. The kids are restless. I have errands to run, and I'm at my limit. So stop being selfish and just help." I stared at her, completely dumbfounded. She really thought she could just show up and drag me into this? And that's when I realized she wasn't going to stop until I finally said something that would make her listen. I took a deep breath, gripping the edge of the door. "No," her eyes widened. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, no," I repeated, standing my ground. "I'm not going with you." Her expression hardened. "Are you serious right now? After everything I just said? I need help, and I need you to respect my answer." I folded my arms. "You don't get to barge over here and demand that I do what you want just because you're overwhelmed." She let out an exasperated laugh. "Oh my God, you're unbelievable. You're just sitting at home doing nothing while I'm drowning, and you can't even spare a few hours to help? I'm your sister. Why are you acting like this?" I leaned against the doorframe, keeping my voice calm. "Because I'm not responsible for your kids. Because I don't owe you my time. And because I already told you no, and you still don't get it." She threw her hands in the air. "So that's it? You're just going to sit here, alone, while your family struggles?" I stared at her. Yes. For a moment, she just stood there, mouth opening and closing like she wanted to argue. But for once, she had nothing to say. Finally, she scoffed, shaking her head. "Fine. Enjoy your lonely, selfish Christmas." She turned on her heel and stomped back to her car. I watched as she yanked open the door, got in, and sped off without another word. The second she was gone, I shut the door and locked it, exhaling. And that's where things stand now. Christmas came and went, and honestly, I had a great time. No stress, no last-minute babysitting, no dealing with my sister's demands. Just peace and quiet, exactly how I wanted it. Of course, my phone blew up with passive-aggressive messages from my mom and a couple of other relatives. Stuff like, "It wouldn't have hurt you to help out," and "Family is supposed to be there for each other." My sister, on the other hand, completely ghosted me. Not a single word since she drove off. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I don't regret standing my ground. I don't regret choosing myself for once instead of being guilt-tripped into responsibilities that were never mine to begin with. But still, part of me wonders, was I too harsh? Could I have handled it differently? So, Reddit, am I the a-hole?
She did nothing wrong. Saying no isn't selfish. It's setting a boundary. Her sister just assumed she'd cave, and when she didn't, she threw a tantrum. That's not OP's fault. Family doesn't mean unlimited favors, and helping out should be a choice, not an expectation. She enjoyed her Christmas, and that's what matters. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments.